Good evening, ladies and gentlemen watching us from all over Cameroon, out of Cameroon, and in Europe. It is a pleasure having you for another edition of Viewpoint on Dbs Television. The head of state last year ordered the auditing of the use of COVID-19 funds intended to fight the pandemic, and this comes after various information have been circulating about some mismanagement or embezzlement of these funds by some public authorities. And in tonight's edition, we will be trying to find out how this auditing could help fight corruption in Cameroon. Talking about this topic, we are having as guest with us Achu Magjinyom. He is the CEO of Universal Transit Logistics, and he will be accompanied by Mange Fenashus. Good evening to you, Achu Magjinyom, and thank you very much for coming.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
It's a pleasure having you this year.
It's my pleasure too, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. Mange Fenashus, good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Vanessa. Good evening to Mr. Ashu, and good evening to our viewers watching us from the house. Vanessa, permit me extend greetings to all the foreigners who are already in Cameroon in preparation for the upcoming football jamboree. It is one of its type. I remember we are having it as the second soccer event in Cameroon, after the one we had in 2016 and the other one we had in 1972. So Cameroonians will be living it again as another time which we have long been waiting for, if not of other issues that came about and the organization of the competition slipped from our hands. So we think that those who are already in Cameroon, wish them a happy welcome in Cameroon.
Anyway, just as they are bracing up, we are gradually preparing
of course.
Witness the event live. Ladies and gentlemen, let us have the first part of the show. If you are just tuning in, you're watching Viewpoint. In the first part of the show, we get the questions. Auditing the management of COVID-19 funds in Cameroon, a way forward to fighting corruption. Achu, is it a way forward, auditing this management of funds?
Basically, I can say yes, I can say no at the same time, but at least it's a way to improve on reducing corruption.
So, which one comes greatest? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Fenashus?
Fortunately, no.
No. And is Cameroon sincere in fighting poor management of public funds by state authorities? Fenashus?
No.
No. Achu?
I agree on Fenashus on that one. No.
No. Let us have the debate. Auditing the management of COVID-19 funds in Cameroon, a way forward to fighting corruption. After the head of state gave the approval that these funds should be actually audited on how it has been managed, we are trying to find out that in a long term, or is it in a way trying to fight corruption, given that there are a lot of information circulating that the management of these funds intended to fight the pandemic has not been used properly, or is not being used properly. Achu?
Yes, even it's not being used properly, to call in an auditor is going to depend on who the auditor is and where the auditor is coming from. If the auditor is still working with the people that actually created the account, because if an auditor works close in hand with the accountant, auditing could still justify the accountant's results by presenting a positive, a balanced account at the end of the day. But if the auditor is a neutral person, definitely he could pick out some spotlights and correct some corrections that were missed out on, or highlight some points that were not being considered.
It's a special mission of the higher state control, Consupe, that will be responsible for that.
The question I'll ask you is this: is the higher state control not involved in all the corruptions that we do find ourselves in? That's a simple question. If they're not involved, then it's fine. It's a good way of reducing corruption. But if they're involved in all what we have been going through, and they have come to an understanding that, okay, yeah, this is my own interest and this is your own hidden interest, and they have hidden motives that we do not know, we can't see, has the account been presented to the public? I don't think so. If they can present the account to the public and tell the public to audit their account themselves, and if create a public forum for everyone to comment on what we have seen based on our own auditing perspectives, then they're being transparent. But without that, a group of people seated in the room and appointing another person to join the union doesn't actually make it fair, and it doesn't actually stop corruption.
And so, based on your own perspective, the way the coronavirus pandemic has been handled in Cameroon, do you actually see that most of these funds, the Solidarity Fund, aid from some foreign countries, have you actually seen that it has been used to its maximum to fight the pandemic?
Not at all. If I want to be honest, my fellow Cameroonians, not at all. We haven't even seen up to 10% of that money being put in use, because basically they did stop our work for a certain short period of time, and because of their financial situation that they found themselves in, if Cameroonians are not going to work, they decided that, okay, we should resume work. They undermined the risks we're going through. They didn't do no effort. How could you say people should stop work? You don't reduce transport fare, number one. You say taxi drivers should not put overload in a car. Yes, they respected your rules. They carried just 4 places. At the end of the day, transport fare wasn't reduced. Petrol fare wasn't reduced. At the end of the day, what are you doing? What was the money used for? To put some 1 or 2 public wash basins. Now, how much does it cost? And how much was giving?
And how much?
If we want to, even the face masks, the government didn't give nobody a free face mask. We had to buy it ourselves. At the end of the day, I don't know what the money was used for. Whether the money was used for something else, I don't know. But honestly, I don't see what the money was used for, because the most important, the minimum and the most important thing that the money was supposed to be used for, that we Cameroonians we could benefit, I didn't see it for public use. I didn't see it. You didn't see it.
Thank you very much, Achu Magjinyo, for your point of view. Mangavena shows you rather think that auditing the management of the COVID-19 funds in Cameroon is not a way forward to fighting corruption.
A way forward to fighting corruption? I don't think so. Because if Cameroon happened to have been that country that was, morally managed, a country that was, never had corruption, and we suddenly happen to have had that situation of corruption in the management of COVID-19 cases, we would have said that, no, we want to stem out this virus from the country. I mean, the virus of corruption. Mm-hmm. But then we know that, practically speaking, all the sectors in Cameroon, corruption is the lifeblood in all the sectors in Cameroon. And if we think that managing the management of, or auditing the management of COVID-19 funds would be the way forward to fighting corruption in Cameroon, I don't think so, because that's not the only corrupt sector in the country. Vanessa, we are talking at the beginning, I was talking of a football, a soccer event that will be coming up. We have another one that will be coming up in 2022. We would have had that competition in Cameroon in 2019. We would not have been faced with the uncertainty that plagues that competition now, with the increasing COVID-19 pandemic.
Infected cases.
We would have had it in 2019 without any issue. What happened that we could not have it? It was because of mismanagement. It was because of corruption that the preparations were not carried out. Preparations that Cameroon had the time, 4 years to prepare for the competition, and until the last moment we could not. Have we audited those who were supposed to manage the preparation for Shan 2019? Nothing. Besides that, we've had other issues. The case of in education, we're talking of the PBs that were distributed. Other issues that we've had.
Solidarity funds to fight insecurity in the
far north and the northwest and southwest region. We have not audited all these funds. And we're talking about COVID-19. Vanessa, I would think that It would be, maybe because the person in charge of it, that is the target, not the finance. Because if we had to try to bring sanity into the management of public funds in Cameroon, that should have been something that is being done gradually. CONAC has been there, but we have never heard anything. If the same kind of attention that was given to COVID-19 funds were to be given to other funds in the country, that would have been a way forward to fighting corruption. But then, we are still talking about corruption, but standings, markings. The COVID-19 fund is just one in a myriad of such cases that are being, sidelined, whereas they continue, side funding state funds, state property, and nobody is saying anything. So I think that if we can talk of a way forward to fighting corruption in Cameroon, we would have talked of COVID-19 funds, talk of other funds too that came before then, talk of other sectors that came before then we would really see a genuine, effort to fight corruption in Cameroon.
But is it not because of persistent information indicated a serious embezzlement in the management of the special COVID-19 funds?
It is not like saying that lapses were identified in the management of this COVID-19 fund. No, because when the Minister of Public Health presents his report that within 3 months they used 600 million for fuel, everybody will raise eyebrows. It's not his money. Because even if you are going, even if you are running from Marua to Betua across the country, within 3 months and you use 600 million on fuel is wrong.
No, the question is this: it's not about using the money for fuel. For what reason?
When they say fuel, maybe we assume whatever mission, that is just fuel. That is not for anything. Which means if they had to give they have to give details of maybe preparing emergency centers that were prepared along our stadia. We had one here in Bapelepe and in other stadia. If they would have told us that putting all these tents and all this is amounting to about 3 billion, 4 billion, because these are I call them fictitious, bills, because you don't tell somebody that just fuel in 3 months is 600 million. That's just fuel. Okay, that's set aside. If we were talking about fighting coronavirus or fighting corruption in Cameroon, we had a committee that published in Cameroon here that 1 bag of cement cost 16,000 francs. A bag that cost 4,200 francs, 16,000 francs. We have sand that is found in all the shores of Cameroon. We imported sand to construct AFCON stadia across the country. Have we carried out auditing of such account? So those are things that once you put them together, you see that talking about auditing COVID-19 funds, although the funds were not, managed in such a way that anybody cannot have no one to look at it. Yes, but then just focusing on COVID-19 funds is just the tip of an iceberg. The real issue is behind the scenes, which we are not even seeing, which we may not even know. So I think that is not the way forward to fighting corruption in Cameroon, Vanessa.
Thank you equally, Mange Fenashus. Ladies and gentlemen, you can equally watch us live on Facebook. 6:30 p.m. is when the show is being aired. Is Cameroon sincere in fighting poor management of public funds by state authorities? Ashu, you think that Cameroon is not sincere at all?
Not at all. Cameroonians have never been sincere, and we shall not be sincere, not now. Maybe the new generation coming after us might be a little bit sincere. The generation right now that are trying to correct some errors from the past, but still, I don't see any sincerity in it. Because it's not about managing a country or managing a company or managing a body that makes a person sincere or not sincere. It's about the way you direct your funds. You can have good funds and you can still they can sincerely direct their funds to what they told us that they're directing their funds at. But my question is that, is that the best thing we can do with our funds? Like you talked of COVID-19. There are many other things to be audited in Cameroon. Why are they concentrating on COVID-19? It's like you're playing over our psychology. You're using A to present yourself because you can justify yourself with A, but meanwhile you're hiding all your tricks on B. So when you come out with A, you think, okay, yeah, you're being honest, you're being open, you're being transparent. Meanwhile, if you look into what you're doing with B, it's not right. Money is not about having it, it's about directing it and knowing how to spend it. If you don't spend it rightly, the people will still suffer.
The people will still suffer.
If you don't direct it rightly, the people will still suffer.
Now, but don't you think that they actually direct these funds to the right project or the right people? But it is the way they use it. Because I don't believe that though. In some places or in some books, you know that this road has been tarred. But if you go there, the road has not been tarred.
Not at all. Not at all. That's not even the case. I just believe that they're directing the funds wrongly to the wrong objectives. So Cameroonians have other pressing needs and what they are using our funds to do.
A practical example.
Human development. How many funds are going for human development? The strength of a country is the people. A country is nothing without the people. If you invest on your people, your youth, makes them more intelligent, more wiser, more educated, more professionally proactive, you're going to cut down on a lot of costs. Because the same youth, we are going to take professionals from other countries and paying them millions and writing it on our accounts. At the end of the day, we fail to understand that we can spend a little penny, less than what we spend on the professional. We can spend just a little on one of our youths in Cameroon and train him through the same course, and he come and represents us. That's saving money for the country. So if funds are directed wrongly, it doesn't mean they're not transparent or they're not using the fund. They're just directing it to the position in which they know they can have an advantage, and which is not advantageous for the whole country. That's the problem. So we need to start thinking about ourselves, and the strength of a country is not the finance, it's not even the resources, it's the people. Because even when you want to talk about building a company, the first strength of a company is the human resources, not the financial resources. Because it's the human resources that creates finance. It's the human resources that improve your company. It's the human resources that direct and trace your company. And it's still the human resources that is going to come back and save your company out of a drought. So in every family relationship, what is the strength of a family? The children, the young. Create route for them. Put money on them. Invest in them. Stop fooling us that you're investing on roads. We can use our leg. We have been using our leg. Our forefathers have used their leg to travel far and wide. We can still use our leg, but without the knowledge, we will still keep on spending on things that we are not supposed to spend on. We'll spend higher, we'll do some high expenses on angles that we're not supposed to.
All right.
So that's my point.
That's your point. Yeah. And if you talk on human development, it has to go a lot with capacity building. Capacity building.
So right.
Mangaven Ashus, you are thinking in the same direction with Mark Ashu that Cameroon is not sincere in actually fighting the poor management of state funds.
At all, Vanessa, we are not. Because if we were sincere, the idea of corruption would have been reducing in Cameroon. But what we observe is, instead of helping to cut down the level of corruption in Cameroon, it is growing by the day. How would Cameroon convince any other person who reasons normally that you are fighting mismanagement of public funds, mismanagement, corruption, embezzlement, and all this? Look at those who are in prisons because of mismanagement, because of embezzlement, because of corruption. What do we do with them? Do we take pleasure taking them and stocking them in prisons and saying that we are fighting corruption? No. These people who are in prison, Vanessa, they are living more than those of us who are outside. They are in prison, and the money they embezzled is working for them. That is why you could have a prisoner who gets married in prison. That is why you could have a prisoner, when you go to visit I'm talking of those prisoners, those VIPs. I'm not talking of the poor Cameroonians who happen to have gone to prison because he did not have what to eat and have had the mishap of taking what did not belong to him because he was hungry. I'm talking of the VIP prisoners who willfully misinterpreted their private pocket and the state coffers, and were using state money as their private pocket. Because when you go to visit them, they pay your transport back. When you go to visit them, they give you money. I mean prisoners, those who are in prison. And you tell me that they were fighting corruption. And you tell me that we are sincere. We are not. That is why we are giving, we are letting Cameroonians understand that if you are in that shoe, do the same thing. They keep you in prison in a VIP cell. In a VIP cell. And then the money you stole, Cameroonian money that you took, is working for you outside. How many of them have fictitious bank accounts that we know? Is that the only way to fight the corruption, is to take them, go and keep them in prison, and then take care of them? In that prison, when they are sick, where do they go with them? They fly they fly out of the country for treatment. Which money are they using? The very taxpayers' money that they took, kept it in account. In fact, they are not fighting it. What they are telling us is, if you are in that position, do the same, and they will keep you in that high standard. Vanessa, we are in a country, we are talking about fighting public, trying to bring sanity into management of public funds. When we would stop appointing Cameroonians because of political leanings, stop appointing Cameroonians into functions for political compensation, and appointing Cameroonians who can do the job out of merit, we start thinking of, bringing sanity into management of public funds. You will not appoint a doctor to manage a town, a city. What knowledge has he got to God? And even when the doctor comes into town, the town becomes one of the dirtiest towns in the country. Whereas with the doctor managing it, I think that if we want to talk about public management of fund, put the right person in the right post, not because he is of the ruling party or not. If we are looking for a doctor, and this doctor, this qualified doctor, happens to be of the opposition party, the problem is not party here. The problem is, what do we want? A medical doctor who can do this. Give him the post. He would deliver the goods. When it comes to politicking, I go to my political party and carry out my political activity. But when it comes to serving the nation, I am serving the nation. When we would be able to distinguish between party politics and state management, we are going to bring in sanity in the management of public funds. When we remain with mixing up party, when we think that because you are an active member of our party, we can compensate you by appointing you into this function, it would not go. That is why you find people move from one ministry to the other. You are a minister of this tomorrow you are a minister of this. Is that how your competence is? If we were appointing a minister of public health should be a doctor. He understands it. A minister of justice should be a magistrate, a lawyer. That's his field. A minister of secondary education, higher education, should be a professor, a teacher. He understands it. And you will find him or her giving out his best because he best understands. You will not take somebody who does not even know anything in communication and put the person in the minister of communication.
My brother, I will object to you on that point.
You are free, sir.
I would like to really object to you on that point. They say life, at times we find ourselves studying things in school that we are not gifted with.
Of course.
There are people that are gifted in certain areas in life and are trained in other areas in life. Like for instance, I studied business administration, and I'm a writer not by profession, but by passion. I believe that I'm a more excellent writer than even a manager. That's what I studied in school. It doesn't make me tomorrow if I'm controlling an arts wall and you say I'm not competent because I didn't study arts. No. The British man will say, okay, present your certificate and I will put you at the post, your best fit, based on your experiences. Now, you discover the American will want to see the work done. If the work can be done, then you have your post. people reason in different ways. What I would say, our management can never find sanity, because they say, Jesus said, he without sin cast the very first stone. We are all sinners and we are all come short of his glory, and at the end of the day, we will still keep on having dirty aspect about ourselves. We all have a closet. But the issue is try to reduce it. And the best way of moderating that, there is no best way. The only way is to be transparent. Because if we are transparent to each other, we try to consider each other as we want them to consider us tomorrow, we are going to handle our accounts a little bit fairly. Not perfectly.
That goes to public authorities.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Achu. But you would understand that there is a difference between your innate disposition, your innate talent, and what you learn. Take, for example, communication, journalism. There are people who have the natural gift to communicate across. But you will not take somebody who just, because you are a local MC in your locality, and you think that if they give you a microphone, you will not. Because there is somebody who studied the ethics, the deontology of this profession. He understands it more than you, who just have that natural disposition, who is just gifted in it. That is why every profession is changing with time. And in as much as every profession is changing with time, there are new ways of doing things coming up. Imagine such a person who was just gifted. Maybe you were just gifted in the fact that you could write a book. You have the fluency, you have the, the availability of words and grammar and call it experience to write. But somebody who learns, he knows the techniques, and when he puts the techniques, and you who has that natural disposition, you discover that the person who is trained in that field, he excels more than you who is just having. We just need to take that natural disposition that you have and then imbibe it with training, and you become a good writer.
I still disagree.
Anyway, we are not talking. We are not talking about passion or training in what field. We are trying to find how sincere fighting poor management of public funds by state authorities are concerned. But we have come to the end of today's edition. So, Ashu, I would like to know from you, what should be the best way that these authorities could adopt in managing the funds being allocated to their various ministries?
Okay, the best way they could be allocated to their various ministry is based on their experiences in life. So if you can go through their experiences, you can allocate the right person at the right place, and based on your passion for the job. Because the most important thing to give a person, to put a particular person at a position, is not even based on how many degrees you have. Is based on your passion. Because when a person is passionate about something, he does it and he learns it quick.
Learns it quick. So, and what about universal transit logistic?
Yes.
What about it?
Universal transit and logistic is our second year of operation this year. We thank God for the first year. The first year was quite hectic. It's not easy to start a business on a year when coronavirus is invading the whole place and doors are being shut down. But still, we survived, and we are hitting the second year, and we are open to suggestion, because universal transit and logistics, we are not a firm that sets the rules.
Okay.
We are an open door for our customers, our clients to come. Let's reach a bridge and set the rules together. So
where is it in Douala?
It's at Bonanjo, directly opposite CCA Bank.
All right.
Connect Building.
Connect Building. So if you need their services, you could just connect with them. Thank you very much for coming, Achu.
Thank you for receiving me and inviting me.
Manga Venashu, so hope to have you tomorrow.
No, tomorrow, Vanessa, will be there.
We'll be there. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your kind and keen attention. It has been a pleasure having you. Do stay tuned to DBS Television. Coming up at 8 p.m. You'll be having the Primetime Newscast. Goodbye.